YouTube, what is going on? It is Young Mustard and I am back with another video and another weekly review of the NBA 2018 season. So for those who don't know how this works, we have our 5 segments: Player of the Week and our Play of the Week. So without further ado, you guys, make sure you follow me on Twitter so you can be updated with the channel notifications and the channel updates. So without further ado, guys, let's get into the 5 segments. The Lakers and the Sixers are arguably the 2 most promising teams in the NBA. On one hand, you have the Lakers that if everything goes right, you have a dynasty in the works that can recreate Showtime. And then on the other hand, you have the Philadelphia 76ers that if all goes right and everybody stays healthy, including Joel Embiid, who hasn't been able to do that his whole career, but if everyone can stay healthy, they can be a potential dynasty, and we haven't even seen their first pick play yet in Markelle Fultz. They're a playoff team, and the first overall pick has not even touched the court for a legitimate starting game. I mean, he has not started yet since he came in the NBA, which is just ridiculous. So when you look at these teams clash off, you would think that this would be a really great game, or at least really interesting. And the first time they faced off, it was kind of a blowout. But the second time that they faced off, the Lakers and the 76ers, they showed why they are very promising in this league. I mean, the Lakers did come out with the W, 104-107, and the reason that that happened is because Lonzo Ball, he knows how to orchestrate an offense better than a lot of rookies that we've seen in today's league. Lonzo had 10 points, he also had 8 assists and 8 rebounds, and he had 3 steals and 4 blocks. And guess what? 0 turnovers. And he shot 45% from the field. So I give him his props there. Brandon Ingram is well balled. He had 21.6 assists and 7 rebounds. Also, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope had 13. Larry Nance had 11. Lopez had 11. Julius Randle had 16 off the bench. Jordan Clarkson as well had 16 off the bench. And then when you look at the Philadelphia 76ers, even in defeat, there is so much promise on this roster, and you can tell by the numbers that this team put up. Ben Simmons had 12 points, 15 assists, and 13 rebounds, had a triple-double. Also, he had a block. And then when you look at Joel Embiid is just a monster on this court. He's a monster. He shot just under 65% from the field, had 33 points, had 6 assists, 7 rebounds, and get this, he had 5 blocks. 5 blocks. Also, Robert Covington had 19 points and he shot 67% from 3. And then when you look at JJ Redick with 15, Jared Bayless had 12, and then Richaun Holmes also had 13 points off the bench. But the thing about the Sixers that I do think that they are eventually going to have to address, and maybe it might be fixed when Markelle Fultz comes back, is their bench depth. Aside from Richaun Holmes, nobody else scored on the bench. TJ McConnell didn't score. Cabarrot didn't score. Amir Johnson didn't score. I mean, this team's bench did not show up in this game whatsoever. And then when you look at the starting lineup, they put up a majority of the points in this game. And I understand that, your starting lineup is going to be very dependent on if you're a young team, but the bench is just not really producing. And now that they've traded Jahlil Okafor and Nick Stauskas, they've even gone just a little bit less deep into their roster. And then when you consider the games that Joel Embiid doesn't play, where they have to start someone like an Amir Johnson or Cabarrot because Joel Embiid's not playing back-to-back games, it only becomes worse. I mean, this team's bench depth, I do think, needs to be fixed. But this was a really good game. Lonzo showed that when it comes to orchestrating the offense, he might be the best rookie in today's league. Not saying he's the best, but he is among the best. He's in that class with Ben Simmons in terms of orchestrating that offense. The only thing about Lonzo that we all know that he needs to fix is his jump shot. Aside from that, he's passing really well. He's one of the top assist leaders in the league already as a rookie. He's getting rebounds. I believe he led this team in rebounds at a certain point in this season. He's also doing better defensively than I think a lot of people anticipated. He's a better defender than a lot of people thought he was going to be coming into the league. So Lonzo's balling. no pun intended. Brandon Ingram is having a really good sophomore year. And then when you look at Kyle Kuzma, who I understand didn't really have the best game of his career against the Sixers. He only had 3 points and he shot only 1 for 7 from the field, 14%. But at the end of the day, he is one of the best rookies in this draft class, and he is a huge steal. So this Lakers team, they showed this game that they are willing to do what it takes to win games, and Lonzo makes the players around him better. I mean, Brandon Ingram last year was inefficient as hell, but this year he's not only getting buckets, but he's doing it even more efficiently. And I think that, yes, it is his development, but Lonzo does have a part in that. So we have to look at other aspects of Lonzo's game. But when we look at the Sixers, the other team, I mean, they gotta get their shit together. I'm sorry, they really do. In terms of their bench depth, they're gonna struggle. They are really going to struggle filling out the rest of this roster when it comes to Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, and Markelle Fultz. Aside from those three, actually, and Robert Covington as well, he's having a really solid year. Aside from those four, the rest of their roster, it's gonna be really tough to, you know, put the pieces around them that they can have to put them at a really high proficiency and to, you know, fit their playing styles, because we all know Ben Simmons can't shoot, and that is the liability in itself. Once he gets that jump shot, he might be one of the better players of, you know, any generation of basketball. So at the end of the day, both teams have what they need to fix, have players that have flaws that they need to fix those flaws and address them immediately, or not immediately, but in due time. But right now they're looking really good, and this game really showed that the NBA's future is bright as hell, bruh. Victor Oladipo. What more can I say about this dude? Not only is he having a phenomenal year, but he is playing like a superstar. I'm sorry, he is playing like a superstar. Not saying he is one, because consistency does matter in that argument and playoff numbers, but he is playing at such a high level that it's almost a lock for him at Most Improved Player of the Year, had it not been for a guy named Kristaps Porzingis, who's a 25-point per game scorer this year in his sophomore season. Victor Oladipo this year not only has jumped in his numbers in all aspects of you know, his stats, but he has ended the streak of the Cleveland Cavaliers, and he did it in such a beautiful fashion, guys. Let's just take a look at this.
Well, everybody has their...
Kevin Love stayed in front. Oladipo hits it.
Oh, boy. He's the one. They love him in the state.
Is that not beauty? I mean, just look at that. Victor Oladipo has done some things that have really not only blown people in the NBA away and other players and fans, but he's blown me away, and I expected him to do this, and that's what's crazy. Victor Oladipo against the Cavs, not only did he, you know, put the dagger in their heart and end their little, you know, winning streak that they were beating all these bad teams except for the Sixers, he had 33 points, a steal, 5 assists, 8 rebounds, shot 46% from 3 and was 6 of 13 from 3, and he shot just under 46% from the field. Victor Oladipo, he torched the damn Cavs, and I understand LeBron, he did have a really good game, 29 points, 10 rebounds, 8 assists, and also shot just under 55% from the field. But Victor Oladipo, man, he was the star of the game. The fact that this man was viewed as a potential bust in some people's eyes based off of the fact that he was the #2 pick and then eventually he went to the bench of the Orlando Magic, it's just flat out ridiculous. Victor Oladipo is a monster. He is someone who can lead a team. I did not expect the Pacers to be in the playoff hunt this deep into the season. If he can continue this level of consistency, him and Sabonis as well, and Miles Turner, and, you know, all the other pieces around them, if they can all play to the high level that I expect them to be able to play, and I expect this team to make the playoffs, because Victor Oladipo is doing something that a lot of people really doubted earlier in his career that he could do. He's leading a team to the playoffs. I mean, I understand that in Oklahoma City in the playoffs, he did not do that great. He did not do that great. His efficiency was horrible. He only averaged just under 40% from the field. But at the end of the day, you cannot deny what he's doing right now. And defensively, he is showing up on that side of the ball as well. To average 2 steals and a block at the 2 position in basketball, basketball, that's a really hard thing to do. He wants to get some blocked shots to prove that he's not only a great offensive player, but he's a great defensive player as well. He has the assignment of guarding the best perimeter defender on that team, perimeter offensive player on that team. So I give Oladipo all the props. And the Pacers, man, they didn't get robbed. They got Sabonis and they got Oladipo, two players that will be key cornerstones of this franchise's future success. So props to Victor Oladipo for hitting that dagger in the Cleveland Cavaliers' heart and ending that streak. Because if it wasn't for him, man, I don't know where our Nigerian brothers in the NBA would be right now. The Rockets and the Trailblazers had a really good game, and I think we really need to talk about this. Yeah, the Rockets, they did catch the dub, and the Trailblazers, they're a topic in their own that I'll make another video about in the future. But we need to address something about the Rockets. This was their first legitimate test since Chris Paul's return. And I understand Chris Paul did play against the Warriors with James Harden and they won that game, but let's just be honest here. Chris Paul wasn't, 100% healthy, and you can clearly see that in his efficiency. But when you look at this game, Chris Paul and James Harden, they responded to that pressure of a late game situation. Chris Paul had 26 points, also had 7 assists, 2 steals, and 3 rebounds, and shot 57% from the field. Meanwhile, James Harden as well balled once again, which is why he is my pick for the MVP. He had 48 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 steals, shot 85% from the free throw line, 57% from 3, and 55% from the field. So both of these players in this, pressured game where it came down to the wire, where they had to have a comeback against the Blazers, they had a very phenomenal game. Now, there's something I need to ask. Are they a legitimate threat to the Golden State Warriors? Like, can they actually push the Warriors? And if they can do that, can they beat the Warriors? Now, a lot of people may say no, but I'm kind of having my, doubts about that no. Now, I still think the Warriors are favored in the 7-game series, but can they take the Warriors to 6 and possibly 7? I think there's a chance for that, and the reason I think there's a chance for that is because what's the way you beat the Golden State Warriors? With spacing on the court and 3-point shooting. And when you have players such as James Harden and Chris Paul who can shoot very efficiently from 3, then you also have players like Trevor Ariza who is a 3-and-D player. You also have Ryan Anderson who you could put at the 5 or the 4 that can space the floor. And then you have PJ Tucker who can space the floor as well. Eric Gordon, Luka Mbadamute is a great defensive player. I wouldn't say great, but he's a really good defensive player, and he can make threes from time to time. This team has enough shooters to combat the Golden State Warriors. Now, obviously the problem comes in so many different aspects. I mean, when you have Ryan Anderson on the court, you have a defensive liability, let's just be honest here. And then Eric Gordon, he's not a great defender as well. And Mbadamute, like I said, he can hit threes from time to time, but he's not that consistent. So when he's on the court offensively, you don't really got much there. So this team does have some things that they need to fix, but I think they are a serious threat. And next year in the offseason, we'll get into that in the next segment. LeBron James has been talked about so much for his free agency decision in 2018, and he hasn't even made it yet. That's what's so crazy. I mean, you got rumors that he's going to the Lakers to go add Paul George to that roster so they can kind of create their little dynasty there with Lonzo, Brandon Ingram. There have been reports that he might consider Philly because they're a really up-and-coming young team. But there's one team that people are really looking at and saying LeBron James would fit really perfectly with this team. And NBA executives actually have even, there's a rumor saying that they think that the Rockets have a legitimate shot at signing LeBron James. And to be honest, I can see it. I mean, this is a quote coming from USA Today, and it says, while James hasn't made it clear that he won't deliberate his uncertain future until the Cavs season is complete, there is a strong belief in Rocket circles that they'll have a legitimate shot in landing the 4-time MVP this summer. Real executives also believe that the Rockets will have a real chance, and once you really look at it, when you get past all the noise about the Lakers and even the compelling case for the up-and-coming Philadelphia 76ers, it all makes sorts of sense. I mean, let's just be real here. The Lakers, even though I did make a video on how, Paul George could go to the Lakers and LeBron could go to the Lakers and why it would be a really, really good fit, when you look at Ingram and Lonzo Ball, they need a bit more developing, and LeBron has always been a player, or at least a person I should say, that has really, really not been someone to hang his hat on maybes and things like that. We all saw that in the Kevin Love trade and how he kind of thought about going to certain teams and thinks about doing certain things, but because of the variables in that team or in that project or whatever, he just changes his mind. So when you look at that option, I mean, the Lakers are kind of out of the picture there. They're really young, and LeBron joining that team, he would have to have another player on that team because he can't just carry some young team to the playoffs, and they wouldn't even be a top 3 seed in my opinion. I mean, Lonzo, Ingram, Nance, you also have Jordan Clarkson with LeBron. LeBron will be carrying that team to the playoffs. Let's be real, they're not a playoff team right now, so if you add LeBron, who else is going to be his second option? Brandon Ingram? So that team has too many variables. Then when you look at the Sixers, they are a really, really compelling team. Don't get me wrong, Markelle Fultz hasn't even played yet, let's be honest. And then you have Ben Simmons, who's an amazing rookie. LeBron wouldn't even have to facilitate that type of offense. He could literally just be a scorer and focus on that. Then you have Joel Embiid, who's one of the most dominant young players that we've seen in NBA history. I mean, post moves on Hakeem level, and he can stretch the floor. I mean, it looks pretty great. But like I said, with a lot of other things, there are variables when it comes to LeBron James. He doesn't want to go with maybes. This is a really young team. Ben Simmons doesn't have a very consistent jump shot. JJ Redick's going to be a free agent after this season, so that's one shooter gone right there. And then you also have Joel Embiid's injury history, which is a really, really big what if for this team. He doesn't even play back-to-backs, and the last time that he wasn't allowed to play back-to-backs, which was his rookie season, he only played 31 games because he got hurt on his knee. And then when you look at Markelle Fultz, injuries have been a part of his NBA season, and he hasn't even really had a legitimate NBA season, which is just crazy to me. The guy has not played any starting games in the NBA right now. And you want LeBron to go join that type of team where the #1 pick that they had hasn't played because of injuries. Joel Embiid has suffered injuries. He's only played 31 games out of 3 seasons, excluding this year, of course. So there's too many variables for that team. So who's next? The Houston Rockets. They got the space to sign LeBron. They got Chris Paul, who's someone that LeBron has said on numerous occasions that he wants to play with before he retires. James Harden is a great superstar. They got a good coach, I should say a great coach, who excels in 3-point shooting that can combat the Warriors' 3-point shooting. And LeBron, he's been a really, really consistent 3-point shooter this year, shooting a career high in the high 40s. So I gotta look at the Rockets and say they're a huge contender to sign LeBron James, and it's a very compelling argument for LeBron to join that team. And if we think that the Rockets are contenders now and that they can compete with the Warriors and take them to possibly 7 games, imagine with LeBron. Who knows what the tandem, or should I say the trio of LeBron, Paul, and Harden could do against the Golden State Warriors. So LeBron to the Rockets, I mean, it's a really, really high chance of it happening. And to be honest, I think that should be the team that we should be looking at in LeBron James' free agency decision in 2018. Kawhi Leonard has been a very, very interesting player for this season, and he hasn't even played, which is really what's making him interesting. Let's just be honest here. He's missed all 25 games for the Spurs, and the Spurs have had a really, really good record this year. They're well above 500, and LaMarcus Aldridge is playing one of the best years of his career in San Antonio. But according to the reports, Kawhi Leonard is targeting the Tuesday game against Dallas, which is on the road, as his return game, and the Spurs are kind of expecting him to come back that game, or at least they're targeting that game for Kawhi Leonard. He hasn't played any of the 25 games this season, and with Kawhi Leonard on the verge of his return, and hopefully he does return on Tuesday against the Mavericks, it kind of makes you ask, is this return gonna really help the Spurs? I mean, I'm not saying that the Spurs are gonna get worse, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that. But when I say help the Spurs, is it going to hurt LaMarcus Aldridge in terms of how he plays and how he feels comfortable in that second option? Because let's be real, he's going to be the second option. Is it going to help him now that Kawhi was out? if, you know, him being the first option has helped boost his confidence, that he still has enough to at least play at an all-star level. I mean, so many questions are really being tossed around here, and I don't really like talking about things like confidence and things like that, but when you look at LaMarcus Aldridge, it was clear that he did not want to play for the Spurs in the offseason. If it was not for Kawhi's injury that he couldn't even walk, I mean, LaMarcus Aldridge might have been traded. Or actually, I take that back, because no one really wanted him because he was overpaid. LaMarcus Aldridge would not be that happy. Let's just be honest here. He does not like being the second option, and he did not like how things ended last season for this team. Even though he did have a really good first game against the Warriors, things just really went downhill there. I mean, he chokes a lot in the playoffs. He really just doesn't show up. Now, last year I did say that if it was the heart condition, then I kind of give him a pass, because at the end of the day, let's just be honest here, that's something that's really serious, and if that was the problem, then I'm gonna give him a little bit of a pass. That's an injury that you don't want to happen to anybody. Or is it really an injury? I mean, it's a disease or whatever it was. I mean, whatever it was that was happening to LaMarcus Aldridge's heart, that's kind of why I didn't really address him choking in the playoffs. I've never called him an overrated player, because that, you know, series, or should I say those series where he did kind of disappear, I did give him a pass because of the heart injury that he did suffer towards the end of the season. So beside that, I mean, LaMarcus has no excuse this year. He has no excuse this year. He has a big contract. You're the second option. You were supposed to be the guy to take the reins from Tim Duncan. You're supposed to be, you know, the heir apparent. We're not expecting you to be Tim Duncan, but you're supposed to at least live up to a shell of what Tim Duncan was. I mean, Tim Duncan was fundamentally breaking down teams at the end of his career because the Spurs prolonged his career. Greg Popovich gave him good, substantial minutes that fit his playing style. But when you look at LaMarcus, I mean, Tim Duncan, there were times in the playoffs towards the end of his career when he was playing with LaMarcus that Tim Duncan had to come in and play minutes that he should not have been playing because LaMarcus would disappear. So maybe I shouldn't have gave him a pass for that heart condition. Maybe I shouldn't have. But we'll see this year, and hopefully Kawhi Leonard's return will help this team propel to a second seed or possibly a first. I mean, who knows? But at the end of the day, the Spurs are the Spurs, and they'll get their shit together because that's just what they do. Now, the play of the week has to go to my man Giannis Antetokounmpo. Not only is he having a phenomenal year, but he is doing things that really make me question human life. Let's just be honest here. This man is dunking on players that, yeah, Gobert has been dunked on throughout his whole career, but Gobert is still a defensive player of the year candidate, and he arguably should have won last year the defensive player of the year award. And Giannis is just dunking on him like he's some kid at the playground. Those long ass arms are just something that you don't see on a regular daily basis. So I give Giannis all the props in the world. He deserves this spot on the play of the week because that was a play that you don't see every day. So shout out to Giannis. Victor Oladipo, I cannot praise this man enough. Now, I know I did praise him earlier for beating the Cavs, but what he has done this week has just been phenomenal. I mean, let's just start with Chicago. They beat Chicago by 2 points, and Victor Oladipo was responsible for that as he hit the dagger game-winning three-point shot, and he had 27 points, 8 rebounds, 2 assists, 3 steals, and he shot 50% from the field and 40% from 3. And then I also explained earlier what he did against Cleveland. He had 33, 8, and 6. And then when you also look at what he did against the Nuggets, a game that went to overtime where he dominated, he had his career high in points. He had 47 points. He shot just under 54% from the field and 50% from 3 as he made 6 threes, and also he shot 85% from the free throw line. He had 7 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 steals, and a block. This man, Victor Oladipo, this week just went ballistic. He decided, I'm gonna go Michael Jordan this week. That's what he did. He decided to go Jordan this week. Now, don't kill me in the comments, but Victor Oladipo has been a monster this week, and I just wanted to give him his props because let's just be honest, a lot of people, they ain't really gonna do it because they think that the Pacers lost that trade, bruh. But let's be honest, they won that trade because when you look at OKC and you look at Indiana, who's balling? Who's balling? It's Oladipo and Sabonis, not Paul George, not the Thunder. The Pacers in the playoffs. the Thunder not. So I'm giving Victor Oladipo his props. That's why he's the player of the week. Alright, so if you enjoyed this video, hit that thumbs up, comment down below your opinions or any segment that I left out. If you agree or disagree with me, let me know in the comment section. Follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram, and add me on Snapchat. The links will be down below in the description box. And guys, I also want to say something. If anybody can make me a new cover photo and a profile pic, or just one or the other, let me know. DM me on Twitter, please, because I really do want a new cover photo and a new profile picture. Just letting y'all know. So without further ado, you guys have a great day. This is your boy Mustard signing out. Peace.
Popping all these pills, she said she used to it. She wanna go way up. Okay, baby, if you're used to it, and I know that you were grown.